Glass walls drank the city's muted roar. High above the avenues, in a penthouse built for gilded calm, Barron stood, silhouette sharp against the panoramic gray, hours ticking down like metronomes fall to the speech. His tailored suit, charcoal shadow, clung precisely, a second skin of expectation. But beneath the woven wool, a restless ocean churned. He was the still point in a frantic dance, required, composed, a visual harmony in the family portrait soon to be splashed across every screen. Family united? The phrase echoed, hollow, in the vast, soundproof space. Memories flickered past speeches, a parade of forced smiles, flashful bursts like miniature explosions, the ceaseless, hungry gaze of a world that demanded pieces of him he could not give. Outside, the city grid stretched, an indifferent tapestry of human lives, each thread separate, tangled, yet undeniably free. He watched, detached, as yellow cabs pulsed like hurried veins, imagining lives lived unburdened, unknown. The president's voice, a rehearsed cadence, seeped softly from the muted television screen, a constant drone, a relentless reminder. Duty whispered, a cold, silken threat. He turned abruptly, a sudden, sharp pivot from the window's vast indifference. Resolve, unexpected and fierce, hardened his gaze. No message sent, no voice to hear, just a silent tap on glass, confirming flight. Crescent City, California. One way. The wordless rebellion tasted like air, clean and sharp, filling lungs starved for something real. Air, thick with pine and dampened earth, rushed to meet him as he stepped from the rented car. Gone the city's grimy breath, replaced by a whisper of wind through needles, a coolness that kissed his skin like absolution. The cabin, weathered wood and welcoming porch, nestled deep within a cathedral of trees. Sunlight, fractured and green-tinged, dripped through the redwood canopy, painting shifting patterns on the forest floor. He traded city black for muted gray, the fabric softer, looser, a symbolic shedding of skin. The relentless hum of urban life dissolved, swallowed by the forest's hushed symphony leaves sighing secrets, a hidden creek gurgling a timeless tune, the far-off call of a bird unseen. A tension he hadn't registered, a constant clench beneath his ribs, began to ease, unwinding like a forgotten knot. He stepped onto the porch, wood worn smooth beneath his hand, and breathed. The air filled him, cleansing, unfamiliar. Immense, silent, the redwoods stood sentinel, their presence a balm, a quiet strength. From the shadowed woods, a figure emerged, a whisper of movement against the green. Hiking boots laced tight, a canvas pack slung over his shoulder, she carried a sketchbook worn soft with use. Her smile, gentle and unguarded, met his gaze. Mia. The forest seemed to hold its breath. The trail, a ribbon of ochre earth, wound beneath the colossal trees. Sunlight, and scattered gold coins, dappled their path. Lost? Her voice, soft as pine needles underfoot, broke the redwood's ancient silence. Barron turned, startled despite himself. No, he managed, the word rough, and used in open air. Just exploring. Mia's eyes, the color of moss after rain, held a quiet curiosity. It's easy to lose yourself here, she offered, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. In a good way. He found himself speaking words unbidden, sketching the outlines of his escape, a need for quiet, a sudden impulse. He left the details veiled, the city unnamed, the speech unmentioned. She listened, head tilted, genuine interest radiating like warmth from a hearth. Then, she spoke of the redwoods, her voice laced with reverence, of sketching their bark's intricate maps, of finding solace in their rooted stillness. They've seen centuries, she murmured, tracing the textured bark of a fallen giant. They hold so much. The crunch of leaves beneath their boots punctuated the quiet flow of conversation, the forest breathing around them, a silent witness. He noticed the smudge of charcoal on her fingers, the earnest light in her gaze. A hesitant question formed, a thread of curiosity he hadn't expected to feel. "You hike here often?" he asked, the question feeling too forward, yet necessary. Mia nodded, her gaze turning back to the trail ahead. "Every day," she replied simply. "Want to join?" A casual invitation, offered without expectation, yet resonating with an unexpected pull. Deeper they walked, into the redwood's hardwood hush. Sunlight faded to a filtered glow, the air cooler, carrying the scent of damp earth and secrets. Pausing at the base of an ancient giant, its bark like weathered cliffs, their conversation deepened, drawn downwards by the forest's gravity. Barron, still guarded, spoke of feeling boxed in, the phrase a weak echo of the suffocating reality. "Like a life plan before it begins," he clarified, watching her reaction. Mia listened, intently, her gaze unwavering, a comforting presence rather than a judging one. She shared stories of her own choices, the conscious paring back of life to essentials, nature, art, a quiet existence. "It's about choosing your own cage," she said softly, then smiled, a flash of light in the dim woods. "Or choosing to live without one at all." She spoke of the forest's interconnectedness, the hidden network of roots, the silent communication between trees. "Resilience in stillness," she called it, the phrase hanging in the hushed air, a resonant chord in Barron's unspoken turmoil. He watched her, captivated by her quiet strength, her genuine passion for a world so utterly removed from his own. In her eyes, he glimpsed a different way, a different kind of freedom. The rhythmic rise and fall of their breaths, the shared silence beneath the towering canopy, wove a fragile thread of connection. He found himself mirroring her posture, leaning against the redwood's immense trunk, a silent understanding passing between them, anchored in the ancient, whispering woods. Cabin lights spilled warm gold onto the deepening dusk. Scented candles flickered, casting dancing shadows on walls papered with redwood sketches. Inside, Mia moved with a quiet grace, a conductor of simple domesticity. The rhythmic chop of vegetables against wood, the gentle simmer of soup on the stove, filled the small space with an unfamiliar intimacy. Barron watched from the worn armchair, the firelight painting his face in shifting hues. This quiet competence, this unhurried creation of comfort, was a world away from the orchestrated chaos of his own life. Conversation was sparse, punctuated by the clinking of cutlery, the soft murmur of shared appreciation for the simple, wholesome meal. Steaming bowls warmed their hands, the fragrant broth filling the air. He observed Mia across the small table, her brow furrowed in concentration as she ate, then softened into a gentle smile when she caught his gaze. Her easy contentment, her quiet joy in small things, struck him with a force he couldn't name. Peace settled in his chest, a sensation so foreign it felt almost like a phantom limb, tentatively testing its presence. He watched her, the way light caught in her hair, the gentle curve of her lips, and a warmth unfurled within him, an emotion hesitant, new, like a seedling pushing through unfamiliar earth. Affection, nascent and tender, began to bloom in the quiet space between them. Porch shadows lengthened into night. Stars, sharp and brilliant, blazed in the unpolluted sky, a celestial dome unseen in the city's glare. Crickets chirped their rhythmic chorus, a counterpoint to the uneasy silence that had begun to settle between them. Barron's phone, a sleek black rectangle, buzzed against the wooden table, a jarring intrusion. A text? "Where are you?" Speech successful. Family asking. The words, curt and clipped, shattered the fragile peace of the redwood haven. His other life, the life he tried to outrun, slammed back into focus. The weight of obligation, the suffocating expectation, returned, a cold hand gripping his heart. Mia watched his face tighten, the shadows deepening in his eyes. Concern etched lines on her brow. He confided then, the words tumbling out, hesitant at first, then gaining momentum like a dam breached. Snippets of truth, carefully curated, revealed a gilded cage, a life predetermined, a suffocating lack of choice. He spoke of the speech, the symbolic unity, the relentless scrutiny. The porch swing creaked rhythmically in the night wind, a mournful counter-melody to his confession. A distant owl hooted, a sound both wild and lonely, mirroring the growing tension. Mia's hand, gentle and sure, reached across the small space, resting lightly on his arm. A silent offering of comfort, of understanding in a world he couldn't fully explain. Moonlight bathed the porch in silver, softening the harsh edges of the night. The redwoods stood sentinel, their silent presence absorbing the unspoken emotions hanging heavy in the air. In the shared quiet, Barron's confession deepened, shifted from circumstance to heart. He began, voice rough, and used to such vulnerability. I feel different here. With you. Words came haltingly at first, fragments of feeling, then surged forth with increasing urgency. He spoke of the profound connection, the unexpected peace, the sense of freedom. He stumbled over the chasm between their worlds, the impossible gulf of their lives, but the confession poured out nonetheless, a desperate offering in the moonlit stillness. Mia listened, her breath held captive, her expression a delicate dance of surprise and dawning understanding. When he fell silent, the night air thrumming with unspoken emotions, she spoke, her voice barely a whisper. I feel it too, Barron, she confessed, her gaze locking with his, luminous in the moonlight. This pull. She admitted the unexpected resonance, the draw to his quiet vulnerability, the hidden depths she sensed beneath the polished surface. The rhythmic sound of their intertwined breaths filled the space between words, a shared heartbeat in the ancient, listening woods. Then, slowly, tentatively, Mia lifted her hand from his arm and cupped his face, her touch feather-light, her eyes holding the unspoken question, the burgeoning answer, in their moonlit depths. Days unspooled, woven from redwood shadows and whispered promises. Time dissolved into the dappled light filtering through the canopy, a slow drip of golden hours. They moved through the forest as if in a shared dream, their footsteps muffled by moss-covered paths. Hand in hand, they walked, fingers interlaced, a silent language understood only by the ancient trees. Laughter, soft and genuine, echoed through the woods, bouncing off bark and fern. He sketched in her worn sketchbook, charcoal tracing the rugged lines of redwood bark, learning the textures of her world. She told him stories of the forest, of nurse logs nurturing new life, of banana slugs leaving silver trails, of the hidden wisdom held in the rings of ancient wood. He learned to see the subtle shifts in light, the hushed conversations of the wind, the intricate beauty hidden in decay. Sunbeams painted their faces gold as they leaned against colossal trunks, sharing quiet lunches of berries and bread. Waterfalls roared a rhythmic cadence in hidden glens, mirroring the insistent pulse of their hearts. Deer grazed, unafraid, in sun-drenched meadows, their presence a blessing, a shared moment of grace. Each shared glance, each murmured word, each touch was a stolen gem, precious and fleeting, polished by the redwood's timeless gaze. Their breath mingled, a rhythmic whisper against the ancient silence, building a sanctuary of stolen moments, fragile yet profound. Back in the cabin, a different quiet settled, heavy and unspoken. The radio, usually silent, crackled with static, then a harsh voice cut through the idyllic bubble. President's speech lauded as a triumph, family united in support. The news report, a casual intrusion, slammed into the cabin's fragile peace like a stone through glass. The words hung in the air, stark and unavoidable, painting a brutal contrast against their redwood haven. Barron froze, the radio's drone a relentless tide pulling him back to shore. The idyllic bubble, so carefully constructed, shimmered and popped. Reality, sharp and unforgiving, returned. His other life, the one he had so desperately tried to escape, loomed, demanding its due. He paced the small cabin, the rhythmic creak of floorboards a metronome of mounting anxiety. Duty, family, expectation, the familiar chains rattled, threatening to bind him once more. The joy, the authenticity he had tasted with Mia, felt suddenly distant, a fleeting dream fading with the encroaching dawn. He was torn, ripped between two worlds, two lives, an impossible chasm stretching between them. Mia watched him, her love a quiet ache in her eyes, understanding the cruel calculus of his choice, the impossible weight he carried. The rhythmic tick of the small clock on the mantelpiece underscored the urgency, the dwindling time, the inevitable decision he had to make. Mia approached him, her steps soft, her gaze filled with a love that was both a balm and a sorrow. In her eyes, he saw not demand, but understanding, a heartbreaking acceptance of the inevitable. Dawn painted the redwood clearing in hues of rose and pearl. Mist clung to the ancient trees, shrouding them in an ethereal veil. Here, in their sanctuary, Barron made his choice. He would return. Duty called, expectation echoed, the known world beckoned with its relentless pull. But the redwoods and Mia had changed him. He could not erase what he had found, the freedom he had tasted, the love he had glimpsed. "Not goodbye," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion, facing Mia in the misty dawn. "See you later." A fragile promise, whispered into the redwood air, more for himself than her. Words felt inadequate, hollow against the weight of what they shared, what they were losing. They stood close, silence weaving between them, heavier than words. From his pocket, he drew a small, worn compass, a childhood possession, a symbol of journeys, of finding his way. He pressed it into Mia's hand, a silent offering, a tangible piece of himself. Mia, in return, offered him her sketchbook. She turned to a fresh page, and with a charcoal stick, quickly sketched a single, towering redwood. "Remember?" she whispered, her voice catching. "Strength and stillness." They embraced, one last time, the rhythmic beat of their hearts a final, desperate connection. Then, with a deep, shuddering breath, Barron turned and walked away, his figure receding into the mist-shrouded trees, leaving Mia standing alone in the clearing, the compass cool against her palm, the redwood sketch clutched in her hand, a single tear tracing a silent path down her cheek. The redwoods stood sentinel, majestic and enduring, their branches swaying rhythmically in the gentle breeze, whispering a promise of memory, a lingering echo of love in the timeless heart of the forest, leaving the question of their future hanging, unresolved, in the misty dawn.